this morning in the east. That's the national forecast this morning. Harry?
Thanks, Mark. This morning's big story, guns and crime. A brand new law in Virginia allows just about any law-abiding citizen over 21 to get a permit to carry a concealed weapon. Thousands of Virginians have already applied, but in Chicago, a new law that took effect in January makes it a felony to carry a concealed firearm. And in the 6 months since then, the Windy City's murder rate has dropped almost 20%. Police Major Bill Brown of Fairfax County, Virginia, supervises background checks for the new permits. He joins us from Washington. And at WBBM-TV in Chicago, Police Superintendent Matt Rodriquez. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Harry.
Major, let me start with you. Are you surprised by the number of people who have been showing up? Thousands.
Well, actually, Harry, we're testing new waters here, and we were somewhat surprised in that the first day that we took applications was July 3rd, right there in the middle of the 4-day holiday weekend, and we had about 400 people show up and processed about 167 on the first day, and then on the second day, yesterday, it fell down to about 80, in the mid-80s or so.
They say in Virginia that in the end, as many as 250,000 people could conceivably end up legally carrying concealed weapons. Will Virginia be safer once that happens?
Well, Harry, I've heard that, they predict that 4% of the people eligible or that would pass the background check may do that. In the county of Fairfax, which has a population of 840,000, that would be about 32,000 people or so. I think that, the legislature in Virginia has obviously acted at the request of the voters and have lessen the restrictions on carrying handguns. What we want to do in support of the circuit court, which is administering this program, is to be sure that the people that are applying for these permits meet the criteria.
Let's go to Chicago and talk to Matt Rodriquez. By contrast, carrying a concealed weapon illegally in Chicago means what, sir?
Well, very frankly, the 1st of January 1995, Harry, what formerly was a Class A misdemeanor became a Class 4 felony here in the state of Illinois. In effect, if an individual carries a weapon and is charged with what we call UUW, unlawful use of weapons, they are subject to 1 to 3 year penalty in the penitentiary.
And you really feel that the murder rate has dropped considerably because of this law?
Well, I strongly feel that the indicators point to the fact that there has been significant impact by this law. Most of the changes in terms of not only homicides, but our non-lethal shootings, which we call aggravated batteries, also recovery of firearms by police officers, have decreased perhaps in unison at about 20% since January the 1st, 1995. Now, I'm certain that there are other factors that might impact this. For instance, in mid-1994, we made the fact that you carried a revolver and were charged with a UUW in a vehicle, we subjected you and your vehicle to an administrative proceeding whereby it would cost you $500 to recover that vehicle. That has contributed to the lessening of non-lethal shootings and the carrying of firearms.
Everyone is struggling to combat crime and make streets safer, make people feel safer. Would you want Chicagoans to be able to legally carry firearms, concealed firearms, say the way Virginia does?
No, I would strongly oppose it within the city of Chicago. We don't have an ability in our United States to have a different law for a rural area than for an urban area. But when we take into account the fact that we have so many people living in a very, very congested area, such as in our major urban cities in the United States, we have to take into account we routinely have people stepping on each other's toes, bumping into each other, kinds of situations that would contribute perhaps to some degree of violence, particularly exacerbated by the presence of weapons.
Let me ask Major Brown a couple more questions. Under what circumstances are you giving people any advice about when or how to use these weapons that they're now packing legally?
Well, Harry, a lot of the gun shops and all where the folks go to receive certification in their safe handling of the firearms is providing the information as part of their courses, and they have to have passed one of these courses as one of the criteria to be issued one of the permits.
Would you advise somebody to use one if they were confronted by people they thought were a threat to their life?
Well, you know, one of our major concerns, Harry, and this again is unexplored territory, is that our biggest concern from a law enforcement perspective is really twofold. Number one, we would hate to see what would normally be a verbal altercation, let's say in a parking lot over a parking space, or a traffic altercation, escalate to the use of weapons. That's our agency's one concern. The second concern is our officers now are going to be responding into situations where in the past we've had very few instances of people carrying concealed weapons. We have a very low violent crime rate in Fairfax County, even though the size of our population. And we're concerned that officers responding to the scene or the aftermath of a scene may be confronted by not only the perpetrators of a crime, but perhaps good Samaritans who have responded simultaneously, and it's going to be up to those officers to quickly assess and determine, you know, who the aggressors are and who the victim is. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Uncharted territory, indeed. Bill Brown, Matt Rodriguez, we thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Do appreciate it.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
Righto. 15 after the hour. Next, the O.J. Simpson trial. The defense gets ready to make its case.